Mike Griffith, welcome back to Tuscaloosa. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Just still trying to recover. It's been less than a month, and I feel like I'm hosting a funeral here in Tuscaloosa. But other than that, it's okay.
Yeah, well, if that's your biggest problem, I mean, you got beat by 1 second by a team of destiny that was, quite frankly, created in the mold of 1990s Alabama, Ryan. I mean, what we saw, we play those games out in our head. We always say, who'd win between this year's team and that year's team?
Sure.
Well, folks, you just saw that 1992 Gene Stallings' Alabama was better than Nick Saban's Alabama.
Let me ask you, does physical football still work?
To an extent, but, I don't think Alabama played physical football. I'll be honest. I think if we're honest here, Ryan, I think Nick Saban right now is asking himself, should I have ever left pro-style offense and gone spread? Because let's be honest, the reason
agree.
Clemson won that game is because Alabama gave him the ball way too many times. And if Alabama's running a pro-style offense and pounding the football, Clemson doesn't get that many opportunities.
100% agree. 100% agree. And I'm not sure if they just didn't believe that Jalen could run that type of system, if they were trying to light it up for his benefit with his strengths. And, I mean, that's good play calling. But when you look back, and Nick Saban said when they hired Sark, he said, we want to get back to the pro set and a combination of the spread, But to me, that tells me they're going to go back to a physical brand of football. I mean, if you look back this year, a little bit too finesse for most Alabama fans. You know this fan base better than I do. I mean, you've covered it. They love smash mouth football.
Well, and let's be honest here. I mean, and not to take anything away, because listen, I was impressed with Hurts. I really was. But he's a kid. That wasn't the best quarterback in the SEC. He wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
And really what it was don't give the poor freshman a chance to get you beat. Because when they needed him to make plays, he couldn't make plays. He wasn't Josh Dobbs. He wasn't going to make plays. He could make plays out of the spread when they overwhelmed. I mean, let's face it. You could have plugged 2 or 3 different quarterbacks in that Alabama offense. They were going to win the SEC this year. But he's just a freshman, and you weren't going to ask him to do a lot, Ryan. And so that's why the spread, in some ways, was good in the sense that a lot of his decisions were made before the snap. He really didn't have to do that much. And you saw when he was asked to do more, he struggled at times because he's a freshman. And that's what freshmen do. That it takes a while to get up to the speed of the game, to get a command of the offense, to be able to read defenses. He wasn't the best quarterback in the SEC. He was certainly on the best team. I will say that.
Mike Griffith right now from SECcountry.com right here on the game as we move forward. Let me ask you, and this is going to sound weird, but sort of chew it in here for just a couple of minutes. Was Alabama's defense too good? Let me sort of explain. They were so good that they went a different method on the offensive side of the football. You said it a couple of minutes ago. Play to not get you beat. But Alabama's defense was so good, to me, it didn't allow that growth on that offensive side of the football.
Well, I think most coaches aren't going to ask the offense to do any more than they have to. I mean, we were just talking about Gene Stallings a minute ago. I mean, how many of those games were 14-6 that Gene coached that could have been, 45-6?
Sure.
But he wasn't going to throw the ball. He was going to play field position. He was going to punt the ball. He was going to play deep. I think the difference was this, and I mean, I'll say that I talked with an NFL scout, and he told me there was a few guys on Alabama's team that and Nick's not going to say it again. He said it once about guys looking to the NFL, and everybody said it was an excuse. A lot of those guys on defense didn't play their best game. They really didn't, right?
No, they did not. You're right. You're absolutely correct. I wonder if it was a problem.
It's human nature. I mean, look, you're 1 60-minute game away from being a multimillionaire and being able to take care of your family for the rest of your life. And you're playing a Clemson team that's laying it all on the line. It for 1 year has done nothing but pray and hope that they get a chance to play you again. Laying it all on the line, a chance to make history, a chance to do something no Clemson team's done since 1980. A coach that's inspired, a coach that understands the Alabama culture. A lot of coaches, Woody McCorvey on that staff. This guy's a Hall of Famer. A lot of people probably don't even know that name anymore, but he's a Hall of Famer who understands. And Danny Pearman from that old Alabama staff. Clemson knew Alabama better than Alabama knew Alabama. Their player, it was a walk-on that beat them. I mean, Ryan, this is right out of a Disney movie, okay? And Alabama was up against it. And listen, they came within 1 second of winning, even with the defense not playing as good as they could at some certain positions. I don't need to name the high-profile guys. You know who I'm talking about. Even with the quarterback that was probably a little overrated and benefited from a great offensive line, really couldn't do much when you asked him to. Even with the new offensive coordinator, which, by the way, I don't think that made any difference whatsoever. I don't think Lane Kiffin would have made a lick of difference. I thought Sark did a great job. And you needed every second to win for Clemson. It just it was just meant to be, man.
All right, so let me go to another conversation. You've been covering the game of college football. How long have you been covering it, Mike? You've been in the business a long time.
1993 Auburn was my first year covering the SEC when Terry Bowden went 11-0.
All right. So let me ask you. I'm going to put you in charge of college football. What's one change that you would make to improve the game? If I gave you anything, I mean, you could do anything. If you want to shrink the time of a game from 4.5 hours down to 3.5 hours, if I gave you the keys to college football, which way would you drive it?
Man, I'll tell you what, Ryan. I'll tell you this. I'm not on board with targeting, and I'm going to tell you why. To me, if you want to protect your players, don't throw over the middle into coverage, for one. The more you keep trying to change the game, you create other problems that maybe you didn't intend on. You know, what's a target and what's not a target? Listen, I'm starting to feel bad for these defensive guys. I'm starting to see them start to get hurt because they're squaring up awkwardly, or they're trying to pull off, and an offensive player is putting a helmet into their neck. And football is football. There are some inherent risks. So I have a problem with the targeting. I think it reminds me a lot of the block in basketball. Kind of depends on the referee, depends on the game. It's just too hard to interpret. And if I'm going around these clinics, I'm telling football coaches, I'm saying, listen, you want to protect your players? Don't throw the ball over the damn middle when there's a free safety there. Tell your quarterback not to hang your receiver out to dry. If you want to protect your players, you want to protect your quarterback, bring an extra guy in to block, okay? Because that's how football, you keep trying to make these rules. I mean, my goodness, we're not too far away from flag football. So I guess I would try and clean up in that way and say, guys, the best way to protect your players is with common sense. And the other thing is, I guess I'd be for the early signing period. This signing day thing, and listen, I know there's a lot of fans that enjoy it, right? It's just out of control, though. Kids on billboards, 17 years old, and you're seeing this entitlement culture. It's leading to some issues. We're learning about things that are going on visits involving young women that shouldn't be happening, and players feeling this is not good. Listen, man, this is not good. This is not, especially at Alabama. Listen, that's not how Alabama football was built. That's not the Alabama I covered when Gene Stallings was there. I can tell you that.
So how do you control that, though?
Well, the whole signing thing is, with an early signing period. It would take a lot of the attention off of tomorrow. Tomorrow is just such a crazy day.
It is a circus.
Pardon me?
It's a circus. It is a circus. It is a mess.
And I don't think it's good for college football. I don't. Now, everybody, you got to play the game. Alabama's going to do what they're going to do to get attention. Tennessee's going to do what they're going to do. Michigan's going to do what they're going to. Everybody puts on a show, right? And then these players report in June, and boy, are things different, right? They're not the big guy on campus anymore. All these superstar signees for Alabama, hey, you better get in line in the weight room, because you got some older players there waiting on you. They're going to tell you how things are going to be here. You know what I'm saying? It just changes. So it's just such an illusion, and I don't like what it does to some of these young people at a time in their life when their hormones are going crazy and they're pumping these kids up, making them think they're 10 times bigger and better than they are. I don't like that. I don't think that's good for college football. I don't think that's what it should be all about. But here we are. We're on the verge of signing day, and Alabama will probably celebrate another number one ranked recruiting class, and the football machine will go on and on under Nick Saban.
We are now 216 days away from Tennessee and Georgia Tech meeting that Monday evening there at the new stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. What are the biggest question marks going into spring practice for the Volunteers?
Wow, I thought you were going to tease me with some Alabama-Florida State talk. I was going to say, man, I've been waiting 30 years for this game. Jeez, oh, Pete. But you asked me about Tennessee and Georgia Tech. We can talk about that. I'm eager to see the new stadium in Atlanta. Questions about Tennessee. Well, they're going to have a new quarterback. Josh Dobbs has moved on, and so they've got a quarterback battle going down, Quentin Dormady and Jarrett Garantano. Both pretty good quarterbacks, but neither one will be able to do the things that Josh Dobbs did last year, leading the SEC in pass efficiency and touchdowns. So you're going to have a little drop-off there. The offensive line will be better. There'll be some guys out on defense with injuries again. So the defensive line is suspect. Tennessee needs some guys to step up on that defensive line. All these games are won and lost in the trenches. Alabama's dominated the trenches. That's why they win the SEC. I don't think Tennessee's ready to compete with Alabama there yet. But they could be good enough to win 9 or 10 games. More questions. Probably at linebacker. I think Bob Shoop's going to change some things up a little bit for the Vols. They lose Alvin Kamara. So this John Kelly guy, I'm not sure how much he was playing when Alabama played him. Not that it really mattered that day. But John Kelly's going to be a year older, a year better. They're hoping that one of these freshmen can come in and have a little bit of an impact at tailback. And trying to build a little receiver depth. Josh Malone went pro. So they lost their leading receiver and their leading ball carrier. So they got some skill guys that got to come in on offense. And probably should be a little bit better in the trenches, but particularly that D-line is an area they've really got to address in spring drills.
We had a writer on yesterday that was talking about the hot seats in college football. You cover Tennessee as close as anybody. He listed Butch Jones as one of those guys that's on a very, very hot seat. Do you buy that?
I think it's too soon to say. I mean, we don't even know who the next athletic director is going to be here. Certainly Dave Hart likes Butch a lot. He hired him, and, if you look at what Butch inherited, he didn't walk into a situation as good as Nick Saban. I mean, he walked into a situation where Tennessee had only won 2 out of their previous 16 SEC games. Lane Kiffin had him on probation. They were still on the Lane Kiffin probation. Lane had recruited some bad character kids that had kind of had a ripple. Really, the Lane Kiffin, that was like a nuclear bomb going off that year he was here in Knoxville. He did so many bad things that hurt the program. So they were still on probation from Lane Kiffin when Butch took over. They'd won 2 out of 16 games. They had Title IX issues off the field. And this is what Butch took over. Now 4 years later, they're 9-4. And, some people have brought up Mike Shula. Was he the Mike Shula? I think Mike Shula did a fine job. And if he is the Mike Shula, I don't think that's anything to hang your hat on, because somebody did have to get Alabama back into a place where a guy like Nick Saban would take the job. But, Butch took over at a tough time. I think as long as he shows progress, he should be fine. But, I'm not the one with my name on the buildings over there. Those guys can get pretty impatient when they're donating tens of millions of dollars. And it could be a volatile situation with the new AD coming in. So I'd say it's a wait and see. I'm not ready to put him on the hot seat yet. But, you lose to Georgia Tech and maybe drop one to Florida in September. Maybe you kind of wait and see what October brings.
You brought up Lane Kiffin. Did you have a chance to see the crazy video earlier today from Florida Atlantic featuring a tired, worn out Lane Kiffin, it seemed like? No energy.
Yeah, who knows? I'll be honest. I don't know what to expect from Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, the football coach, I don't think anybody has a problem with Lane. I think everybody sees the potential for Lane Kiffin, the football coach. It's what goes along with it. It's what happens away from the field. It's those character integrity questions that you've got to ask. A lot of people wondered if maybe Alabama could change him, and we'll see. The jury's out to me. I don't know. Was he trying to be funny, Ryan? You almost wondered if he was trying to be funny because the video was so miserable.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but I guess it did its job, even though it's a bad look. We're talking about Florida Atlantic, which we probably wouldn't be if there wasn't a crazy video from Lane Kiffin.
Well, you look at Lane's career, and he's gone from being an NFL head coach to having a job at Tennessee, and then being fired at USC, and Nick Saban pretty much scraped him up off the pavement and gave him a chance to work with the best players in the country and rehabilitate his image somewhat. I think he did. But the fact that this was the best job he could get tells you a lot. It tells you a lot. It tells you what a lot of people know. It tells you a lot the concerns are with Lane, and it's a make or break situation for him at this point, Ryan. I mean, if he doesn't get it done here, I don't know. I guess he could always be one of these volunteer coaches at Alabama. They got a few of those, right?
Yeah, I got a few analyst spots available. Lane Kiffin could come back as one of those. But, I mean, you're absolutely correct. I don't know if Lane Kiffin there's not a lot of Nick Sabans out there that are willing to take a chance on a Lane Kiffin.
There's only one other coach that you can really put in the same sentence with Nick Saban right now, and that's Urban Meyer. Just because he's gone toe-to-toe with Nick and, what Ohio State did to Alabama running over him a few years back. And that recruits, that plays the game at that cutthroat level, that's that dominant, that's the kind of guy that when he walks in the room takes it over. I thought it was really graceful, by the way, and I wanted to point this out because I covered the national championship game and I did a video. I was out on the field videoing the Clemson celebration, and I happened to catch Nick out of the corner of my eye searching out Dabo. And so I kept the camera on him. It was about a 2.5-minute video. Nick, patiently wading through the crowd, making sure that he found Dabo, making sure he found that moment. And then I asked Nick about it in the press conference afterward. And, regardless of what anybody thinks about Nick Saban, good, bad, or indifferent, I'll tell you what, that night, Nick Saban showed that he could lose like a champion. And that's not, I'm not saying that lightly, because we know how competitive Nick Saban is. We know how much emphasis and importance he puts on the bottom line. But the character, the humility, and the sportsmanship that he showed that night for Dabo Swinney was very, very impressive to me and showed me a sign of Nick Saban that I'm not sure I'd seen before, and an important sign as well. It really, I thought to myself, you know what, this guy he really, you got to do more than just win to be a legend, Ryan. But and Nick Saban, he has certainly grown into that legendary role.